So if we can make our way back to our tables. Is Bevel Wooding in the room? Bevel, we're going to be a little disruptive. Prof, with your indulgence, you have the last session. And this is going to be a very quick intervention, but just to say, Bevel, if you'll get maybe the portable mic, because you're not staying very long with us, a couple of minutes. It's an observation as many over the last 3 days, but one that was a little bit of a sidebar discussion this morning, in that all of the themes and so that arose that we didn't not as matter of oversight, but integrating the whole aspect of information and communications technologies, not from the standpoint of just ICTs, but knowledge which is going to cut across all of these discussions, sectors, thrusts, etc. So Richard Blewett of UNDP asked me very quickly to locate the presence or the need for the new information order, as it will cut across all of these overarching themes, etc. So I'm just very quickly going to ask Bevel because he has to leave, to just share very quickly to locate the forum and what may be coming out of how we may be using the information and communication technologies to drive this engagement in shaping the Caribbean and the future of the Caribbean.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I will be quick. Can I get the presentation on? One of the things that has cut across all of the discussions over the last few days has been, of course, the issue of education, which we all can relate to, but also the issue of technology has been an underlying, almost like a baseline in the conversation. How do we get to the future without some consideration of the role of information and communication technology? So I want to run through very quickly some of the considerations in terms of looking at technology and the role it could and should play in our pathway, paving a pathway to the future. Beyond, and I want to look beyond the technology cliches, the robotics and the nanotech and the virtual this and the augmented that. And I want us to get into the technology from a Caribbean perspective. And from a Caribbean perspective, we can, I think, all accept that the region has a surfeit of ideas. Creativity is what we are all well known for. But at the same time, we have these challenges that have been coming up repeatedly over the last few days, the crises in the region, economic crises, financial, agricultural, what have you. And there are many obstacles to development and many barriers to the kind of preferential future that we say we want. But inside of all of these challenges are opportunities. And it is the opportunities I want us to look at from using this as a lens for considering the role of technology and understanding this fundamental point. What we face in the region is not so much a challenge of resources, it's not so much a challenge of money, it is a fundamental challenge of paradigm. How we look at the opportunities that are before us and how we use those opportunities to create a new reality. And in that context, I want us to consider these 4 areas. One, the need to deal with the issue of education, not simply from the standpoint of what we do in the schools, but more importantly, how we educate for life. How do we create this sense of a Caribbean consciousness? And the role that the technology actually is playing right now in creating almost a subculture amongst our youth in terms of how they perceive their world. And the sad thing about that emerging subculture is that it is being informed by and fed by content from other jurisdictions. And we have a diminishing cultural asset in our elders, in our communities, that the technology can allow us to use as an underpinning for our pathway to the future. And so I list education as one of the first key points and how we create disruptions in that space. The second is enabling. A number of persons have spoken about the issues that impede the kind of entrepreneurship and the kind of creative capacity that exists in the region. Once again, technology can be used to blast those open. But that technology has to be enabled, or the use of technology has to be enabled by the right forms of public policy and the right forms of community practice. And of course, I can't go into any of the details in this very quick overview, but I want you to look at it in terms of these blocks. And the third is engagement. There are a number of discussions that have happened over the last few days that had to do with the diaspora, the role of the external diaspora, the internal diaspora. We look at communities of interest within countries and between countries. And one of the undeniable benefits of the technology is its ability to engage. Now, we think in terms of engagement, in terms of the normal social media platforms like the Facebooks and Twitter, but there is actually an opportunity to create from within, and there are a number of examples of this, platforms upon which Caribbean or indigenous capacity and indigenous wealth and indigenous value can be based inside of fulfilling our need to engage. And then the final one is empower. Giving stakeholders at every level, male, female, old, young, the capacity to actually do it. A lot of the innovation potential is stymied by just the absence of appropriate enabling policies, or some may say even by the absence of finances. But we have just witnessed in the merger between two of the region's largest telecom companies, a $3 billion valuation for a company formed 10 years ago in the Caribbean based on Caribbean customers and Caribbean resources. The issue is not so much do we have the money, is what are we doing to keep that money directed and channeled toward the kinds of enterprises and the kinds of innovation. So here are my ideas for disrupting the Caribbean. And I just list these, and I'll leave you with these. Diaspora interchange, a platform that links the often spoken desire of those who have gone out and earned experience and expertise with the capacity to link that with opportunities and needs here within the Caribbean. Think of it as a marketplace for ideas and opportunities, somewhere where somebody can say, I want to help in the area of solar technology, and they can go in and see which of the countries or which of the sub-regions has a need in that area that can be channeled in a very focused way. Idea factories, places where people can go to say, if I had this concept, can you help me identify the types of policy and procedural red tape that needs to be completely removed for these ideas to become something that we can actually build industries around and upon. Solution spaces, this is something that that gets to the practical aspect of Caribbean creativity. Places where people can go in and actually put their hands on technologies that may be not affordable or not easily accessible. But in these spaces, you link the diaspora opportunities, the local companies, with the innovation that is coming out of our young people and out of our entrepreneurs. Open drivers, looking at the fundamental issue of opening up Caribbean data and using that as a basis for the kind of software development. Most of us, if we drive outside or use applications like Google Maps or Waze, we take for granted that somebody had to open up a database that said, here are the roads, here are the businesses, and so on. That same kind of value creation can happen if more Caribbean data is opened up, not just by our governments, but by our private sector. The other aspect inside of that open drivers is that it also creates the capacity for us to make more informed decisions around what is really taking place, not through government, but by having people at the places that they are submitting information or data on what is happening on the ground. And those kinds of opportunities are very real and very necessary. Civic Eyes, these are some now are getting on the right-hand side. These are some of the things that are actually going on now. A platform to allow people at a local municipality level to look at reporting back to government. Here are the things that are wrong in my area: broken tree, derelict vehicle, abandoned yard, and then using that to police and to keep the local government machinery transparently accountable to its pace and speed of development. EduLink, DocumentWe, one of the things that has come up inside of the discussions is the whole issue of how do you know or how do we understand what it is to be Caribbean? How easy is it to find out from Trinidad and Tobago what's happening in St. Vincent, or from Antigua what's happening in Guyana? Again, the technology provides a wonderful opportunity for us to capture the essence of who we are and use that as one of the anchors for inspiring and enabling our young people. The technology has to be about the people. The technology has to be about a certain kind of reality that we want to create. One Voice is a discussion that we're having now at the OECS level about creating a space where content from media, not just formal media, but informal media, can be used to create a single understanding of what is happening around this sub-region, and using the internet as a platform for that. No broadcast license, no red tape, just getting that going. Artisan Village, Isusu, as a way to get a Caribbean version of the microfinance crowdfunding going. Now, some of these are actually happening right now. And there are people inside of this room who are engaged in different kinds of both commercial and non-profit organizations and initiatives to help this revolution go forward. So I want to leave you with this, a consideration of what we can look at, a framework for understanding how it applies, and the knowledge and the confidence that we can do this and get to 2050 using technology, but in a way that is most meaningful to the development of Caribbean society. Thank you.
Prof, that was very disruptive, won't you say? But useful disruptive. Okay. Somebody was saying something? Okay, I think, Hazel, what happened there was that this was not necessarily part here, but it was seen to be important to flag it. And then, of course, again, an old hand like you knows that it is a question of plugging into the channels to get the information. There's no Q&A for that. What is his name? Yeah, Bevel Wooding is his name, and everything is going to be on the website. And I'd like to thank you, Prof. I'd like to thank you and all of your speakers and presenters who are lined up. And assure you that nothing is going to happen by way of your time. Please don't look at your clock. I'm not going to be punitive to you. And I think we're all very interested as we're coming to the end of this day to figure out what's happening in terms of our advocacy and really taking bold action in advancing the Caribbean agenda. So Professor Andy Knight of the Institute of International Relations here at the UE campus.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I've lost my voice, as you can tell, but I hope you can understand what I'm saying. I have a backup plan, and that is I've got my notes written here. In the event that I lose my voice completely, I'll have to ask my colleague, Matthew Bishop, to speak on my behalf. But I'll try my best. First of all, I want to say I'm very, very much touched by the fact that we still have a full room here on the last session of this conference. It says to me that this particular event was necessary. There's a need there for this kind of disruptive thinking. And I want to give a lot of credit to our foreign minister, Winston Ducaran, who I believe this is almost like a swan song for Winston Ducaran, our foreign minister. He had a vision for this conference, and we now see this conference being realized. And while I know that many of you did not get the opportunity to say what you wanted to say, I see this as a spark that will ignite change